Hi, this is Mike Bowen for Cop Vision, and I'd like to talk to you a little bit about data journalism. Um, my understanding of this goes back quite some ways, but I'd like to introduce you to myself in case you haven't seen me or heard of me before. I've been doing business intelligence for about 30 years, and about half of that time here in Los Angeles, the rest of the time as a traveling consultant all around the country. I've built something on the order of 150 data warehouses and data marts, um, some of which are probably still in production today. For the past 6 years, I've been working on Amazon and kind of next generation methodologies for high performance databases in a multi tier environment. Um, so basically, I'm the kind of guy for whom a 10 terabyte data warehouse is a walk in the park. So when I think about public data and transparency for agencies, I can take my years of experience at well-known companies and say this is what I've been doing in terms of business performance management. For those of you who are not familiar with business performance management, it's basically kind of fact-checking all of the information in your organization. For example, if you were Rex Tillerson, the CEO of ExxonMobil, and you wanted to know how much oil you're getting from all of your refineries under your control in the world, you'd call a guy like me, and I would go to all those places, consolidate all those databases, and put them into a stream that he could see on his mobile phone and say, today we did 140 million barrels of oil. And that could be up to the minute. So I have a history of building systems like that. And when I look at newspapers, I say, well, uh, at some point, the New York Times or the Los Angeles Times or the Washington Post reported X happened. Let's say it was the explosion of a oil, and there's no reason that I'm fixating on oil, but Deepwater Horizon is a movie that's out right now, and people may recognize the story that when that terrible accident happened, a lot of people were predicting that the United States shrimp business would go out of business because of the pollution. And so my immediate question was, because I was thinking of shrimp or a whole plate of shrimp, uh, well, what are shrimp prices right now? And where else can Americans buy shrimp from? And so there's all kinds of analytical questions that I would have. And let's say, how long will it take for the government, for example, to turn around special financing for the shrimp boat owners in the Gulf? And how long will it take to stabilize the price of shrimp so that Red Lobster doesn't go out of business? It turned out that somebody knows the answer to all those questions, but it was not part of the public debate around the environmental impact of the Deepwater Horizon uh, accident on the shrimp industry. And I'm the kind of guy that would like to have those answers very specifically answered, because there we have the analytic capability. If you're on Wall Street and you buy shrimp futures, you will know. But right now, maybe there's 50 people who know. It could be 50,000 or 50 million people who know, if the system is in place. And the thing that I say again is that a story is not a system. So, what we have in the cloud and in the progression of methodologies like the kind that I've been working on is a greater ability for lower cost business performance measurement systems to apply to more aspects of life, or politics or transparency in government. You have more ability for people to get more facts, not on a story by story basis, but on a continuous basis, because it is somebody's livelihood to know how much shrimp was delivered to the markets in New Orleans yesterday. So somebody knows that number, and that number can be communicated to everybody. Now, let's say you're interested in something like domestic violence. I should be able to ask, and you should be able to know, how many police calls went out yesterday in Los Angeles County to the sheriff's department on domestic violence calls. And then I should be able to map that to a place and put little dots on the map so that you could see. And we should be able to compare that because data comes in continually. So we should have a continuous thing. Instead of waiting for perhaps some supermodel to have a terrible fight with her boyfriend, and that gets in the news. That gives us one story, one data point that the press will talk about for 2 weeks, instead of the fact that maybe there's 500 of these things happening every day and nobody talks about it. I think you're getting to what I'm alluding to, which is that our current press is not doing a good enough job with systems of information. Instead, we highlight stories. And I think the press should be dedicated to using a story to highlight a system or bring attention to a system. So my idea, which is an idea that's shared by many people, is to have data journalists. And data journalists will be the equivalent in the public sphere of what a data scientist or somebody like me would be in the private sphere. So when Jeff Bezos bought the Washington Post a couple years ago, and as a blogger, I've been blogging for something on the order of 13, 14 years, I naturally thought, hey, maybe here's the time for that thing to come together. And it hasn't quite come together yet. Now, there's a third leg of this, which I should also mention, which is the actions of Mayor Bloomberg. Now, Bloomberg, as we all know, is a pioneer in Wall Street, and he's one of the people who did big data for Wall Street itself. And he displaced a lot of other firms. And part of, not that he was involved, but part of our problem in the 2008 recession on the mortgage financing and collapse of the guarantees of that is an example of how we let information get away from us and to our detriment. And so the better we have a system that will keep us informed, the better off we're going to be. So Bloomberg specifically, as mayor, promised to set up a call center that would monitor the municipal services if there's a pothole or a light out or broken windows, that you could call in as a citizen and then get information about which agency in the city is responsible for that and what their response rate is for that. Last night I went to a very good session given by someone whose name I have not memorized yet, but we'll be in touch, who said, we did something like this in Los Angeles County and discovered that most of our parking tickets in the city of Los Angeles are for violations that have to do with street cleaning. And street cleaning basically has a 4-hour window of when the street sweeper may be there or may not be there. And this by far is the largest part of that budget. So a lot of people are being cited, but are our streets clean enough? So we can have one exhibit that tells us this many street cleaning, this many moving violations, but that needs to be hooked up into the other systems so that we can talk about street cleaning schedules, and you can envision the city of the future where you have LED signs for street cleaning that give very specific times, as accurate, for example, as bus times of when the street cleaning machinery is going to pass through that neighborhood. And then instead of having 4 hours on every day of no parking, you get it down to maybe 30 minutes a day of no parking. So imagine how much better parking would be in the city if you could put change that. So what I'm advocating is that even though Bloomberg put his call center together, it was easier for him to do than for an LA mayor or even a controller who has done good work, Galperin, uh, in getting together data for the city. Uh, the press has a role in keeping the pressure on city governments and agencies to release data that they have. Now, I understand and respect the fact that nobody has done this very well. And there's a great challenge for all people in all of IT to manage their data. I know because I'm the consultant who's been doing this for 25 years. But what I'm saying is that a modern consulting firm with the skills of people like myself can manage these problems very quickly, very efficiently, and put them in a place that they will be available for the public. And there is a lot of old tools and old systems that are slow, that are small, that are insecure, and that are not well managed and governed, that contain information of vital importance to the public and gives the public more confidence that they can see what the cities are doing, and they can, like the CEO of ExxonMobil, have immediate answers to questions that are pressing upon their minds. And of course, they have a right to them because government is for the people. So, what I would like to encourage is, first of all, to follow me as I embark on this civic mission, and think about ideas that you have that you could share with all of us, and see how we can influence government to be responsive through the kinds of systems that we are growing accustomed to. There's no reason why our government should be bureaucratic and slow and unresponsive, and there's no reason why we in the public should be lazy about demanding information and transparency for all the data that's out there and all the data that could be out there. So whether your interest is environmental and the price of shrimp, or it's industrial and the price of oil, or it's local and the price of parking tickets and the availability of parking on your street, or the crime rate in domestic violence. These are all things that we have been trained to think of as stories, where the press will follow a meme for 2 weeks and then forget it, and then we don't get to know what's going on a day-to-day basis over a long period of time, because we cannot manage what we cannot measure. And if all we're measuring is outrage, then when things don't go the way we want, all we can do is be mad, and then be mad that we can't be mad out loud. And I know a lot of people are feeling that, and they're feeling that government is getting away from them, and they have no way to tell whether or not bureaucracies and government agencies are doing the jobs that we want them to do, whether they're following the priorities that need to be followed, and if they actually have the data to back up what they say. And if we have citizen journalists who focus on data and systems instead of just splashy headlines, then I think we'll make progress. This is Michael David Cobb Bowen, and hope to see you soon. And please speak up and give me some comments. Thanks.